I want to personally thank Danielle and Rakia and all the NCNW ladies here. Thank you so much for having me. Y'all, I have been excited about this all week long. I have been at home just giddy because I believe that that God has been allowing me to live some things in order to have something to talk about here. And so I am excited to share this message. As Rakia said, I am a graphic designer by trade, and I consider my industry one that makes things beautiful. And I have a passion for that, for art, for design. But one of the things that I love about God is that He is a creator, and He is an artist, and He has me under construction right now. So really seriously, Miss Honey, when I sat into her class, I said, Miss Honey, you done read through all my little speech with her wise words, because I am under construction. We all are. And I want to tap into that a little bit today. The title of what I'm going to talk about is called Changing Your Outcome by Saying Yes. And YES stands for yield, embrace, and shift. Now, I know that we've all had this scenario. You ever had one of your girlfriends call you up and she got some troubles to tell you, some problem, something that's happened to her. And she starts her conversation with, girl, listen to this and tell me if it's me. Is it me? Tell me if it's me, right? And so she goes through her whole spiel. I got a girlfriend like that calls me all the time. She goes through her whole spiel about this problem. And at the end she says, is it me? And what do we say as good girlfriends? You know they just jealous of you. They always hating on you. That's how you can tell. We just lying. You know it's her. She started it. She kept it going. She's the real reason for that problem. And not to say that it's not good to support each other or help to build each other up, but we do our sisters a disservice sometimes when we lie and say, no, when you. And I am here today to challenge us to look at ourselves. Sometimes, yes, it is you, but it's not necessarily you at fault, but you as being the solution to whatever it is that you're facing. Now, I can't talk about empowerment today without talking about the power source. And our power source is God. We can do nothing without Him. And to come here today and say that we can be empowered, we can move forward, we can achieve greatness without Him is a lie. I'm doing that same disservice if I were to stand up here and give you all of these reasons why you yourself can accomplish it without Him. It's not true. He is the reason that we are able to be empowered, imparted with the power that He possesses. So let's look at YES. YES starts with yield. Now, in the traffic world, I always thought that yield meant like stop or slow down when another car is approaching so you can determine whether or not it's safe to go ahead. But really, yield is short for yield to the right of way. And basically what yield means is that you wait and let another go first. That's what yield means. So if we're talking about yielding to God, that doesn't necessarily mean stop or slow down. That means you allow Him to go first. You allow His will to trump your own. Now, I want to tell a little story about how God showed me who I was yielding to. Because really, when you're yielding to God, the opposite of yielding to God isn't not yielding and doing your own thing. We're always yielding. It just is a matter of who we're yielding to, right? Either you're yielding to God, or what's the opposite? You're yielding to the enemy, right? One or two ways to go. We're being led, but who's leading? So, a little story about how God showed me who I was following at the moment. My grandma's 93 years old. And she just recently started to have some maybe severe mental problems, dementia's kind of setting in at that age. And so she got to the point where she kind of forgot how to stand up, how to walk on her own. And so when one day she ended up on the floor, and my mom couldn't get her up, they sent her to the hospital, And she's been there for observation and now in rehab to try to relearn some of those motor skills. And so my mom asked me one day, Val, can you go out and check on grandma, make sure she's eating, as she eats all of her food, make sure that the meals are ordered for the next day. And you know, sometimes we get so busy with important things that we don't want to do those little loving, caring things for each other, for our families. How many times have my grandmother fed me, probably, when I was young? And now I have an attitude. I had an attitude. The negative connotation of an attitude. Because going to do that was taken away from something else that I already had planned to do. So I go into the room, and she's asleep, which is normal. And so I try to nudge her awake. Grandma, it's time to eat. It's 5 o'clock. She's like, no, I'm asleep. I don't want it. I'm like, Grandma, come on. I'm here. It's time. You always want to eat at 5 o'clock when you're at home. I'm like, let's get it together. No. I'm not feeling it. Now the anger's rising. Oh, because I already done put off something. You already inconvenienced me. So I'm like, Grandma, we here to help you now. And she shares a room with some other people, so I'm already like, okay, don't make a scene around these other people. But I started to get angry. I mean, and it's shameful to think about now, but I started to get upset. And so when she was refusing to eat, I was resolved. I was like, okay, you don't want to eat? Fine. The food can sit there. I'll sit here. I waited out another 30 minutes till my mama came, and hey, it's all good, right? God showed me something. As soon as I sat back and was on my phone, I'm on Angry Birds, like whatever. The nurse walks in, her nurse, and she comes in, and she looks at Grandma, and she looks at that tray by the bed, untouched, and she looks at me. And she says, oh, she's not waking up to eat? I said, no. She's like, oh, okay. So without question, without hesitation, she immediately goes over to my grandmother and starts to speak in a louder tone, because my grandma's hard of hearing at this point. Blanche, you need to wake up now. It's time to eat, honey. Come on, let's get it together. So she raises the bed up, gets my grandma all propped up and nice. She pulls the tray in front of her, lays the food out. As she's describing how delicious it is, she's cutting it up. She's allowing the food presentation to be appealing to my grandma. She asked her, is there anything else that she can get her? Can she make the meal better now than it was before? And you know what? When she did all of that, my grandma looked at the food and said, oh yeah, I'm kind of hungry, I don't know. I immediately was looking like, what? So you want to eat for her? But God showed me who I was yielding to. I wasn't yielding to him. Yielding to him always results in love. The action that follows after you yield to him is always one of love. If I have an attitude, a negative attitude, I know who I'm yielding to. And it's not him. So if I am to change my outcomes, I have to first go back and look at who I'm following, where my attitude is going. So as far as yielding, that means that if I'm to yield to God, my will, my opinion, my decisions, they have to take a back seat to what he wants. Not just for my life, but what he wanted for my grandma was for me to show some love. It wasn't necessarily about her eating that day. It was about her receiving love from me. Yielding recognizes that what we think is ours isn't really ours. We recognize that. Yielding is a choice. It is a conscious decision to hand over what you have, mainly your thoughts and opinions, over to more capable hands. When we yield, we give our control away. We're the women in the room that like control, like to have control in your hands. I think we all do as women, don't we? We all do, because we all, you look at a situation, I know how to do that. I can make that better. Or I automatically see where you can improve, right? That's just how our eye is trained, right? So it takes a little practice for us to be able to yield, because we're not used to giving up that sort of control, especially when making decisions for our own lives. Yielding allows us to see the right way to go. And it's because God takes that driver's seat. Now, we can't yield unless we really know what's steering the wheel, right? what's really driving us. That takes a lot of inner searching. What's really controlling the direction that you're headed in? It might be something that you hadn't considered. So going to God and asking those questions is going to be crucial and key. We have to realize when we follow God that his outcome is rarely about us. If we can remove us benefiting from our desire, we start to see others with the love of God. He is the one that wants to do the ripple effect in us, so that whatever happens to us can multiply and make sure that others are blessed and affected. Now, just like a child trying to sit in the driver's seat of his daddy's car, not even being able to see over the wheel, that's what it's like when we take God out of the driver's seat. When we remove him from being in control of where we're headed, we're driving like a kid with the steering wheel, not even able to see what's lying ahead. When we give that up and let him sit in the seat of control, that causes us to yield, and his will starts to become ours. When an area is under construction on the street, we need to yield so that we don't cause a crash. We need to yield so that we can know that we are safe as we proceed further. God will reveal where he is taking you. That's his will. Once we stop caring about how he's going to change the other person. When we pray, sometimes we pray, God, get them. Them. God, change them. God, move them. But God wants us to look inside. And yielding causes us to do that. Yielding does not require us to know the plan up front. Yielding does not make us have to know what's going to lie ahead in order for us to move forward. See, sometimes we want to know, we want to reap the reward of reaching the destination, but we won't start moving until we know the whole plan. God doesn't work like that. Because the surprises around every corner are there to equip us and to train us and to teach us how to handle those same situations in the future. So we first start with yielding. That's the Y.E.S. Next is embrace. Can the room say embrace? Embrace. Embrace. Embrace is to seize eagerly. Embrace is to admit. Embrace is to accept. We must change our perspective on what a bad situation is. The world wants us to say or think that bad equals wrong. Bad equals punishment. Discomfort is bad. Inconvenience is bad. But embracing challenges is a seed. And when that seed is planted, growth is produced. The situation should not have to be first appealing in order for us to embrace it. Embracing is an open arm. You can't give somebody a hug with your arms folded, right? If we're so closed off from our negative situations, if we want to run, if we want to avoid, if we want to turn our backs or leave, and I'm a big one with that. I'm telling you, I'm under construction. Right now, as you see me, I'm under construction. Because there are some situations that in the past, I would have turned the other way, not even think two thoughts about it. I would have just dismissed it and moved on. But God is showing me that embracing causes so much more of an impact than you removing your presence. What if that very thing, that very person that you're avoiding, that very situation that you don't want to be a part of, that very conversation that you don't want to have with somebody, what if the deliverance and healing of that is wrapped up in you turning around, facing it and saying, I don't care who's right or wrong. That doesn't matter. I'm going to embrace you with the love of God. It doesn't matter what you did to me or what I did to you. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. Right now, today, I have open arms for you. What would the world be like if everyone looked at each other and said, you know what? I'll take the blame. What would our groups be like? What would our churches be like? What would our home situations be like if we removed blame from the equation and opened our arms? The opposite of embracing is resisting. God as Father will present challenges to teach us or nurture a skill in us. Like I said before, in the world, problems indicate trouble or something that's wrong. But spiritually, problems are seen for what they are: teaching moments. Opportunities for us to look at God as our focus, for us to look at God as the lead, and for us to yield to Him. When we pray for a blessing, we need to expect a challenge to come in that area of our lives. And that's something that sometimes I don't even think in church is expressed very clearly. We want to think that once we get into His presence, or once we make amends with somebody, or once we have looked at a situation with a keen eye, all of a sudden that's going to disappear and everything is going to be okay. But really, embracing helps to change you. Not necessarily them or the situation, but how you view it, how you react to it, how you respond to it. That's what's going to make the difference. And if that other person is unwilling or unyielding, you fill in that gap by eliminating all strife and blame. Error is inevitable, regardless of whether we try to avoid all risk. Not trying doesn't stop trouble from coming. Not attempting, not reaching out, doesn't stop our problems. Running away from them doesn't stop them. Embracing them, that doesn't stop them either. But guess what it does? It turns your viewpoint around. So now you look at the next situation with God eyes, with spiritual sight. Embraceable situations are easy to spot. Normally, they lie in the very things we really don't want to do. So think about that person that you don't want to talk to. Think about that situation you don't want to face. Or even, it doesn't necessarily even have to be contrary. Think about that thing that you're struggling with, that decision you're struggling to make, that connection you're struggling to get. Embracing that situation, having open arms and open heart to it, can change your perspective and allow God to show you something that you might not have even considered before. Embracing is the door to healing. It's not about fixing others or even ourselves, but it moves us into a pliable, moldable state. If we're hard, we can't be changed. If our hearts are hard, they can't be molded and shaped and formed to match what that situation that we want to get into so badly, that achievement that we want to get, that relationship status that we want. If we can't be molded to be able to take that on, then when we get there, we won't know what to do. Or failure would be inevitable. It's easy to understand the need and impact of embracing when we think about what difficult situations we might have caused for others. Let's think about that for a second. Sometimes, if we stop looking out here and turn around and look here, we see that we've hurt people sometimes too. We see that we've made things more difficult than they should have been from time to time. And it might not have even been on purpose. It might have been a fluke. It might have been a bad day. It might have been a misunderstanding. But that other person walked away thinking that I'm crazy, or I got an attitude, or I'm being unreasonable. You never know. So when we actually turn the spotlight back around on ourselves, especially when we look at ourselves in relation to God, we see how important it is to forgive others and to start to embrace. He embraced us. All the things that you ever thought that you were going to do for God, all the things you promised Him, you know, those bargaining moments that we have with God. God, if you just do this, Lord Jesus, if you just get me out of this situation, this is what I'm going to do from now on, Lord. I ain't never going out, I ain't never drinking again. Lord, please just help me right now. Please get me off this bathroom floor, Lord, I never drink again. We done all been there. We done all been there. And then where you at next weekend? Kicking it like you ain't never been through nothing. And yet, God doesn't say, oh, well, because you said, you're cut off. He embraces us again. When we come back to His feet, He's there. Always. He never fails us. Who are we to fail each other? We must learn to embrace ourselves. Sometimes it's not us versus them. Sometimes it's us versus us. We can be our own worst enemy. And when we do that, we have to recognize that it's a spiritual battle. It's war. War is going on up here every day. This is what the enemy wants. He doesn't want the body. We just came from the human trafficking workshop. This is where it starts. She showed us that. This is where the pimps get it. Right here. They get the girl's mind. The rest of it follows then after that. If the enemy can have your mind, if the enemy can get you to thinking that, everybody's looking at you or nobody's looking at you, whatever your insecurity is, whatever challenges you, if he can get you thinking there, the rest of it follows. So we need to learn to embrace ourselves. Forgive yourself. If you've messed up in the past, if you've had something that you really wanted to do or thought that you should have accomplished by now, and I'm talking to some of my more seasoned sisters now, because we can get, college is just full of life and hope, and your whole life is ahead of you. Graduate and get some babies. Do I hear an amen out there? Graduate and be in a position where you might lose your job. Graduate and have a relationship fall apart on you. Something like that. And then you're right back to questioning. Was it me? Did I do something wrong? The enemy starts to work there. He starts to whisper in your ear all the reasons why it's your fault. And then you stop embracing yourself. You start acting funny to you. Ain't that crazy? That's an identity crisis. You got an attitude with you. He'll get us to that point. Then everybody thinks that we're crazy, and that's another thing on top of it. Don't be crazy. We start to have this identity crisis. But when you start to embrace, open it up to God, allow him to lead, and then start to lovingly open yourself up to the situations that come at you. And embrace, a person that is embracing, a person that is naturally carrying that within them, that person is probably happy and joyous inside because they know that their strength and their outcome doesn't depend on anybody else. It's him. Lastly, shift. Can the room say shift? Shift. Now, once we have God in the driver's seat, and once we have started to open up our arms to situations that might be challenging to us and embrace them, now we got some work to do. Shift can mean to move from one place to another. Shift can be a change in direction. Shift can be a period of work, the night shift. Uncomfortable circumstances make us want to move. I hate that it's like that sometimes, but that's it. That's the truth. When do we move the most? When we're uncomfortable. Because at that point, normally we have run out of other options. And now we're forced to make some sort of change. But it takes real faith to move where you can't see. When God is in the driver's seat, sometimes it's a scary road. Because you're not always privy to what he's going to do next. We have to be prepared to move. We have to be agile and flexible. After we embrace, we should be open to God's lead. But that requires trust. Now, I know in some personal relationships, our trust has been compromised. Right? It could have been family member, parent. It could have been a sibling. It could have been a romantic relationship. But if that person did us wrong, we tend to carry over that distrust of them to that distrust of everybody else that follows after them. And as women, we like to prepare ourselves. Oh, I know better now. Oh, okay, yep. I see that. Oh, he said that same thing to me that you said. You're right, that's how it starts, right there. Oh, you ain't gonna fool me twice. And we can mentally confuse ourselves with thinking like that because we close off that trust. So shifting isn't always physical. Sometimes it's not always to a new location. Sometimes it's just simply a mind shift, a paradigm shift. Revelation that only God can bring about. So if we're looking for a change in mindset, we gotta go to the only person who can change somebody's mind. You can't change other people's minds. You just can't do it. If you're trying right now, stop it. Because you're doing it in vain. It's unable to take place. The only person that can change a mind or a heart is God. Period. So God could not only change the situation, but probably he's more likely to change how you view that situation. He can also change how you feel about what you can accomplish. Sometimes, like I said, we can be our own worst enemy. If we have an idea in our minds that's absolutely wonderful, we can't wait to strive to achieve that thing. The next series of thoughts, this has been my experience, are doubt. I have this great idea, and then the next thought that comes to me is, can I really do that? Is that really possible? Would people really respond or support me? Are people really behind me like they say they are? And then we spin out of control. Ain't nobody said they was going to not support you. No one has ever said that. Maybe some people have. But your thoughts take you into a place that isn't, there's no proof to it. It's just all up here. That's where he starts. So sometimes the shift needs to be in our mental viewpoint. A shift can also be backward, not necessarily in progress, but back to a thing or an idea that you may have abandoned out of fear or doubt. Sometimes when we're stuck in a situation, we don't see movement, we don't see progress, we're wondering what God's doing, we're wondering what's going to happen next. Sometimes he gives us time to revisit an old idea, an old way of thinking, an old inspiration. And that can be something that we have abandoned when really we should have kept going with it. The more agile we are, the faster and farther we can move. Your next level is going to require work. Yielding and embracing prepares you to take on this work, and your ability to shift depends on it. God can cause you to shift your view of him also. Sometimes struggling in a previously stable area in your life shows what new help he can be to you. Some of the mothers in my church will talk about God in the way that their lives have been affected by him. If you haven't been broke, you might not know God as a provider as much. If you haven't been sick, you might not know God as a healer as much. But if for some reason you are praying for deliverance in this particular area, or looking for a change in your life in a certain direction, that area is going to start to get disrupted a little bit. That's the beginning of the change. He's going to start to make rumbles there. Because if there's going to be a change that occurs, you are going to be the one that ends up being changed. So that situation is going to start to look crazy. And we can't be thrown off guard thinking that that's a no or a stop. That's going to be the next step in the sequence toward blessing, toward the destination. Shift comes with a renewed expectation. We should not be starting out to accomplish anything and then not expect that it will be done. Expectation is something we cannot let go of. Shifting comes with the responsibility to act. There's no reason for God to tell you to move if you ain't going. There has to be a response to his call to you, and that is to move forward. So in conclusion, it's you. If you were wondering, is it you? It's you. But it's not you that's at fault. It's you that's the solution. Realizing that you are the solution means that there's no waiting needed on the answer. You know it now. You have the power right now to make an adjustment in any situation. And whatever just popped in your head, that too. That one. Yield by taking that situation to God and letting him direct your next step. Embrace the very thing or person that you're trying to avoid. And be equipped with a new mindset so that you can shift your direction in the way that God has revealed to you. Those are my words this afternoon. Thank you, ladies, so much for listening.